of people down here because it's like a South 40 walk. When I started walking it, I'm like, are we really going to be the last room down here? I think there's one more room down here, so we appreciate you guys taking the jaunt all the way down here. I'd like to give a shout out to Matt in the back. He's our volunteer for the day. He's the one handing out all the evaluations, and he probably will catch you before you leave, or he'll be collecting your evaluations on the tables if you want to leave them on the tables. Is that right, Matt? That works for him. And we have a great tech staff working with us today. We got Dustin in the back. He promised to make sure that if I start talking too loud, because I'm not used to mics, I'm used to standing up here and just talking, and my voice really carries. So he's promised me that if I start talking too loud because I get really excited sometimes, he'll turn it down so you won't have to be doing this. He's got me. He's got my back. There we go. That's what we like. That's what we like to hear. Well, I don't know where to start other than to tell you, Lisa and I, this is Lisa Lontz, she works with me. We both work at Lutheran Social Services, and we are both support brokers, case managers. 4 months ago, little story, we were asked to come and give a presentation on what support brokering is. And I was so excited and so nervous. Excited because there's so many things to share with you, and we have a great morning plan for you. And nervous because I wasn't sure if I could get all of it in an hour and a half. Lisa seems to think that we can.
We can do it.
So you'll have to excuse my crackly voice today. The weather is still warm in November. That's a good thing for Wisconsin. However, allergies are still around, so I'll refresh myself with some water if I get a bad cough going. So what I wanted to do was just start off a little bit and talk about Lisa and myself and our backgrounds, so you know what we do, where we've been, what we're up to. First off, my name is Alice, and we also had a conversation about this morning. The hardest part of our presentation is, how do you tell everybody about yourself? I don't like to talk about myself that much. So I'm going to give you a short and sweet narrative. You can read what's up on the board. But I have worked in disabilities for 27 years. Right when I got out of college, I accepted a job working as a frontline disability worker. Had no idea what I was getting into. One of the reasons why they hired me out of college is because I had a background in health, and I could coordinate exercise and recreation in the pool, and I was a certified lifeguard. That's how I started. And from there is to where I am now. And everywhere in between has been a stepstone to making more impacts on disabilities and frail and elderly. So the first 15 years was solely developmental disabilities or disabilities of any kind, and working in a workshop, adult day services, doing all those things, getting frontline experience, behavioral experience, learning so many things about all the individuals that are out there. And then I took a jump into long-term care and quality improvement and quality assurance, working with nursing homes, assisted livings, independent livings, and learning how to educate them about frontline employees, how you hire frontline employees, retention, all of those kinds of things, and then talking about satisfaction within their company. And I stayed there for 4 years. Went back to assisted living, a huge assisted living, and was activity director for a couple of years with a rehab facility, which got me more involved with elderly and frail and elderly. And then, of course, dementia and Alzheimer's jumped in there as I was working with the assisted living. So after that, ended up at Lutheran Social Services, where I started out as a support broker, and now I'm the program supervisor with Lutheran Social Services. I supervise 4 support brokers throughout the state. Lisa works with me. We both have a lot of different capacities within our job, but it has been quite an adventure educating, talking about what a support broker is, and I am very hopeful that by the end of this meeting today or this session, you're going to have a really good understanding of what we do. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Lisa.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Lisa Lontz. My background, I actually went to UW-Platteville and got my degree in psychology, and ended up working at Lutheran Social Services. I actually moved about 4 hours away from my hometown just specifically to work at Lutheran Social Services because my college roommate lived in Chippewa Falls. And she had started working at LSS, and she said, hey, they're hiring. And I said, hey, I need a job. So basically, that was 16 years ago. I jumped into it. I really didn't know anything about disability services, really hadn't given it a whole lot of thought prior to that. Started working with a couple gentlemen in a supported apartment and fell in love with it. Once I started doing that, I'm like, you get paid to do this? I mean, you're just helping people have a good life, and how awesome is that? So I did that for a long time. That I moved into supervising 3 to 4 bed adult family homes, which had its good and bads. I think the employment piece is always interesting with those kinds of situations. But the people, again, awesome. Loved that part. Then I went to case management, and we had some shifts in philosophy, started working more towards personal experience outcomes, things of that nature, started to take a transition into community supported living. And now I do 1 to 2 bed adult family home certifications throughout the state. I'm also a support broker, and I do community supported living trainings and policy and procedure development. So it's a little bit about me.
See, we told you, it's hard to get everything in. Try to take a step back sometimes. You guys, I can't even imagine what the wealth of knowledge is in this room. How many professionals and individuals that we have in here that have years and years and years of work experience. And we are just glad that you're here today to try and get a better understanding of what a support broker is. And like I said, we have a lot of things in store for you, especially that table right there. The main table.
We're worried about that.
Were you worried? Don't be worried. They have a game called Jenga. Who's heard of Jenga? Everybody's heard of Jenga. Yes, it's a good game. Now that you guys are all at your table, I can take this away. So if you bump it, people will know that you're restless.
You know what? It should have been.
Oh, should it? Can you fix that for me? All right. So we're going to engage in that game in a little bit. And you know what? And just because is at her table doesn't mean that all of you at some point in time might have to come in and engage in that game, because we're going to be getting into that in a little bit. So let's move forward. Not only are you going to be listening to Lisa and I talk today, we have several individuals that are going to be doing video presentations. We actually have Ashley here, who's going to be doing a presentation later on today. And we also have, at the very end, we have viewpoints from a guardian. And she wasn't able to make it here today on what a support broker is and how it's helped her. But we do have a statement from her that we're going to be sharing with you. So lots of things to talk about. Mm-hmm. And Lisa, why don't you get us started here?
Absolutely.
With Deb.
Yep, this is, we did little video clips, and I apologize, I'm not a videographer, so I did the best I could, but we will give this a shot, and we wanted to have some introductions. Throughout, we will have some little clips from these ladies, so we wanted you to have a chance to get to know who they are a little bit and what their backstory is. Whoops.
Hi, can you tell us your name today?
Deb Lynn Wally. I am a former RN, former farm girl from northern Minnesota, and I suffered a traumatic brain injury in August of 2011 from a scooter. Being hit, helmet broke on my head when I was sideswiped, and the helmet flew off. And several others. I also have pretty severe mental illness with rapid cycling bipolar disease. I'm a recovering alcoholic, 30 years sober this year. I'm 60 today. And because of my mental illness and some other things, I've been in several abusive relationships. I have made a lot of poor decisions, and I'm very interesting.
So that's Deb. She's a fantastic person. The thing that I really find inspiring about her is that she's always upbeat. Herself, she might be in depression and having bad times, but she tries to turn everything into the most positive piece that you can imagine. So she's just an incredible lady. And then there's Lisa.
What's your name? Lisa. Monopoly. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to require long-term services?
Well, when I was 16, I went head first through the side door window of a car. I opened my head and the window, and then ended up on the sidewalk, banging the back of my head up against the sidewalk. I had ended up with a brain injury. Back then, in 1985, no one really knew much about brain injury, as they do today. From that point, I got pregnant because the medication they gave me for brain injury didn't work with the birth control pill, and along came my daughter Kimberly, and I was out on my own. I have a Catholic Italian family. My mom didn't want me in the house because that was sinful, and I was out on my own.
Okay, so we'll hear more from those ladies as we go on.
All right, so the topic you've all been waiting for, support brokering. What is it? And what can you learn about it today? First of all, after thinking of millions of ways that you can present what a support broker is, we took the definition out of the state, which is everybody can read it, everybody can find it, and it's someone who assists individuals in planning, securing, and directing their self-supports. And you'll find that we do a lot of that, along with the fact that the services for a support broker, they are paid for the participant's self-directed supports through their care plan. And they must be independent of other waiver services. Also, there are provider qualifications and standards, and I think it's important for all of you to know what those are, because there is a belief, a myth out there that anybody can be a support broker. And that's not necessarily true, and we're going to talk about that today. You really need to find someone who has good knowledge of what's going on, and they need to understand what the state definition is and what the program is and the qualifications and standards. So let's delve a little bit more into that as we go. So in order to help you understand the state definitions, I brought it back up here again. Support brokers are subject to criminal background checks, background information disclosures. If you have a support broker, make sure they have a background check. We're a human service field. You need to make sure, the employer needs to make sure, the care managers need to make sure that that person is safe going into those homes. So please make sure that that person has a criminal background check. Support brokers must also be knowledgeable about the local service delivery. They should be knowledgeable about the area that they're in. And they should be able to find resources available in the community. Sometimes that's a little bit harder to track when you're looking at an individual and you say, oh, you know, my aunt, I want her to be my support broker. Well, does she have knowledge of the system? Does she have knowledge of working with IRIS or a managed care organization? Does she know what's going on in the community? So those things are very, very important to keep track of when you're looking at what a support broker should be. There are different kinds of needs for every individual. So you want to have a well-rounded support broker, not one that just comes from a simple background. You need to have you need to have a multitude of different things going on. Ask them for their resume as a support broker. Find out where they've been, what they've done, Make sure they have, we require a degree for us, as well as a lot of experience. That was one of the determining factors for being hired in the positions that we are, is the experience that we have, not just in disabilities, but frail and elderly, as well as different types of situations that we've been in. And you definitely want to make sure that you look at a resume for an individual when you're choosing your support broker. The participant and IRIS agents, consultant agencies, I don't want to offend any MCOs that might be in here. This is directly straight out of our definitions here. They're responsible to ensure that we have the direct knowledge. So not only as the individual who has hired us, the employer, but also the care managers, the IRIS consultants, you guys need to kind of do a little background check on who that support broker is too. That's really, really important. There is, believe it or not, a foundation to a good support broker. And a lot of these characteristics you will see probably in the first few minutes you're with that individual as you're meeting with them. And a lot of these seem like a lot of common sense, but it's really not. You know, you look at recognition of interpersonal supports, this person needs to know all the different kinds of things that go into what supports that the individual they're working with needs to be with. They need to be respectful. They need to be supportive. Again, common sense tells us that all these things need to be involved in what the foundation is of a support broker. Being a team player is probably one of the most important parts, because there's a lot of coordination between what a support broker does with the individuals, with the family, with the guardian, with the care managers, with ADRs, with so many of the agencies in town. They need to be familiar with that. So being a team player is a very, very important part of your support broker.
As well as those community resources too.
Yes, absolutely.
Doctors, things like that.
Yeah, they need to have an understanding. Very good point, Lisa. You know, we talk about a support broker with the knowledge. Lisa and I have worked a lot with nurses, physicians. We're not RNs, you know, we're not doctors, obviously, but we have a real good understanding of medical conditions, medication. So if for some reason somebody needs us to go and meet them at a doctor's appointment because they need an advocate for them to understand what the physician is telling them, or helping us to interpret to the physician what they are telling them, you need to have a background in those types of things. And you just can't pull someone off the street to have that knowledge. You've got to have someone with the experience. Listening skills and communication skills, I think, Lisa, that's probably the number one thing that we hear a lot from the individuals that have a support broker. You listen to me. And I think that is a skill that has been lost for a lot of these individuals' lives, and they like to have a voice. This is a self-directed program. They want to have a voice. You listen to them, you provide things for them or assist them with getting things that they need. And that's the nice thing about the support broker. They need to have good listening skills. And last but not least, the goal setting is a very important part that we're going to talk about a little bit later on here. So we're going to talk a little bit about the quality of the support broker, and we're going to welcome Lisa back in to share some of her knowledge.
So again, this is Lisa Monopoly, and this was just some of her thoughts on what the quality should be in a good support broker.
I think that support brokers is a wonderful thing. And I think that if you're going to be a support broker, you need to have compassion and be gentle and kind and understanding. And I found all of those qualities in Lisa. And she's been my rock. So yes, I think that support brokers are needed.
I hear it over and over again from people, that listening piece, just being heard. I think sometimes people feel like they're talking and it's just going in one ear and out the other, and people are making plans around them, and being able to be self-directing and saying, this is what I want my life to look like, this is where I want to go with my life, and how can we do that? How can you work with me to get to that point? Just becomes so incredibly huge for people, and they're so grateful when they just get heard. I mean, it's a small thing, but it is a huge thing.
All right. We're going to go through a couple of things in regards to building a foundation for a support broker. Things that all of you can look for, things that all of you can see in a resume, that you can hear when you're speaking to them or interacting with them, and questions that you can ask yourself when you're in the position of hiring a support broker or trying to find some information about a support broker and what is a good fit for you. So recognizing, first of all, a support broker is essential in recognizing the things that are happening out in the community and getting that person involved in the everyday aspects of life. So again, it's the knowledge base that you're looking for to be able to get them to where they need to go with the resources that are available to them. The respect part comes in regards to decision of making and supports to build and sustain relationships. As a support broker, it's important for you to be able to have all these connections in the community, maintain a very good positive relationship in the community, and bring those tools back to the individuals that they're working with, because that's how they get introduced to new people, that's how the community becomes involved with these individuals, and that's how they become members and citizens within the community when that trust, instead of the fear, the trust is there that these individuals are able to come out in the community and they're able to work. So respect is very, very important. Support talks about decision making and risk taking. People to make their own rights and decisions. As a support broker, you're there to help them, to assist them. You don't make those decisions for them if you're a support broker, and that's a very, very, very important. This is a self-directed program. Decision making is about the individual, the participant, the client, the consumer, whoever it may be. And it is their right to have the support from all of the people that they work with, including the care managers and the IRIS consultants, their family, their natural supports, whoever it may be in the community. Customizing plans, goals to each individual. That is a very important component of helping the individual become very well self-directed. They have things that they're looking for, ways to customize their own plan. Sometimes you just need a little bit of a help, a little bit of a jump start, a thought process, examples of things that they could or couldn't do that helps them to get started in customizing their own individual plan. Willing to work within a team is common. It's common sense to me. It's not to everyone else. When you're working with a team, it requires everybody's input. Everybody needs to listen. Everybody needs to react and work together and come together with the full plan, and then the individual makes that decision on what they want to do. So they have a lot of resources at the table, but in order to bring that all back, you need to have that whole team there. One of the most important parts, and Lisa and I, we can't talk enough about it, is the listening component. Can you jump in on that? I get a drink of water.
Absolutely. So like we were mentioning before, that listening to the individual, what is it that they really want out of their lives? Just taking a minute and understanding and really hearing them, doing that, modeling it back, this is what I'm hearing you say, making sure that you've got it right before moving forward and just jumping ahead. So that listening piece just really becomes so important so that you can actually help them get to where they want to be in their life. So again, yeah, that's for me, that's probably one of the key pieces.
Let's see what Deb has to say.
think I have some resentments, and I think I have some experiences that are not unique. I have some advantages in that I was pretty highly educated and top of my class, blah, 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 upper 3% of the nation on my boards, and a few decades of nursing experience. What I was told after a few years of my brain injury and being homeless after leaving my ex was that I would not qualify for independent living. I felt not heard when I tried to advocate for myself and to have people advocate with me. Maybe it was my bipolar disorder or my brain injury, but I would obsess. I would be fearful of calling and doubt myself, and I would try to write down over and over on places, what would I say and what would I ask and how could I do it in a nice way. And I would say, if it's not too much bother, if you could call in the next 5 days, things I would never have said before. Because of that, I suffered for an extra 2 or 3 years. I didn't get housing assistance. I didn't get food assistance. It kind of felt like you can think that there's kind of a bottom level of hell, and then you find out there's another one. I ended up in that other one for a while. Finding someone just to hear you and to believe you.
Goal setting. I would have to say, I know listening skills are high up on what a support broker can do for individuals, but goal setting is probably top of the list. This is where experience and background in a lot of diverse areas brings into play what can the individuals or the participants expect from you? And that is helping to achieve goals. The goals are diverse, they're across the board, but what happens with that is it helps them to be able to realize, first of all, what they need, what they want to attain, or what they want to set a goal for, how they're going to achieve that goal, celebrate the successes along the way, and then once they have completed that goal, they have completed something in their own world by themselves with the help of a support broker or their circle of support team, and it's an accomplishment for them. These goals don't have to be anything extravagant. Some goals can be, I want to get a new employee hired within the next 3 months, and you design out how you're going to go about that process, who you're going to access to find those people, what kind of job description you're going to have for them. What's the expectations of them as an employer? What are they going to do? What's their role? So that's one thing that you could, look at for a goal, but there are other goals that you can set up. Another goal would be, how do I find heating assistance, or how can we set up a time for me to find a new apartment? Can you give me some insights on that? Lisa, do you have any other?
One of the neatest things that I find when working with individuals is that the goals set themselves. A lot of times you start talking to a person and they may not recognize it as a goal, but when you start breaking things apart and kind of teasing it apart a little bit further, you find all those little goals inside bigger things. And you can kind of make a list, and some of those may be set aside for later and work on your main goals. Or you might work on multiple things simultaneously. But when you actually start talking and listening to a person, that's when you start to learn what is it that they really want, where do they want to be, what do they want to do, and you can break that out. So that's a part that I really enjoy.
What does self-direction mean to you?
Self-direction is being able to direct oneself in what you want to do with your life, making choices, and meeting your goals.
What prompted you to seek out a support broker?
I couldn't self-direct. I was going in circles. It was bad. I didn't realize that a brain injury made it hard for you to make choices. And when you're flooding, you don't make very good choices at all. You're quick to make a choice, and it's not always the best choice that you make. So in having Lisa in my life, I'm able to tell her things that I want, and she's giving me direction on how to get where I want to get. Lisa has helped me to make decisions, take it slow, not take everything on all at once, and really decide with my brain injury and my limitations what exactly is best for me. Figuring out how far I can actually push myself before I feel like I can't do this. So I'm going to be able to achieve goals.
Lisa talks about in there that I help her with making decisions, and the truth is that Lisa knows what she wants in her life. She's obviously a very outspoken kind of lady. She's from the East Coast. She's Italian. She's pretty outspoken about things, what she wants in her life. The piece that she has trouble with is breaking it down and figuring out how to actually get to that point. So we talk it through, and it just comes naturally once you do that. So she's able to direct and say, this is what I want, this is the way I'm going to do things. But she needs to have that little assistance with breaking it out so that she can think it through and take a look at the different options and what it might mean if she goes one way or another.
So, now we have an individual that came all the way from La Crosse to spend some time with us today, Ashley Adams, and she wanted to talk a little bit about what a support broker is and means to her. So, come on up, Ashley. Lisa's going to hold a microphone for you, okay?
Hello, everyone. Hi. Pleasure to be here. I lived in a group home for a year and a half before I realized it was not a good fit. I wanted to be more independent and free to make my own decisions about my life. That's why I chose to move out and use a self-directive instead. Now I'm able to go out in the community as much as I want. For example, going to farmers markets and even concerts, as well as live on my own without a roommate. Now I'm living the life that I dreamed of when I lived back in the group home, and I have support brokering to thank. When I first moved out into my apartment, everything was great and worked out well up until a few months ago when I found out things weren't working as well as I thought they were. I wanted to change how things were working and regain control over the schedule as well as my own life. My social worker brought in support brokering services. We both look at the schedule and work with employees' availability to find a schedule that works best. Having a support broker as an outside influence has helped me write the schedule how I want instead of catering to those employees' wants. The workers were uncomfortable with the schedule change, and one by one they each left, me stuck without workers. Support brokering services found workers for me and brought back my independence and ability to live how I want. Support brokering services have made my life easier by looking for more caregivers to fill out my schedule. I feel like my support broker knows me well to find people she knows that will want to work for me, and together I can feel more confident in my decisions. My support broker gets workers started faster than I ever could on my own. She takes a load off my back and we can work together to accomplish my goals. Through regaining control of the schedule, my support brokering has taught me how to be a better boss instead of a coworker or a best friend to those who work for me. I'm happy to say I have now lived on my own for 4 years. This was made possible by self-directive and working with my support broker closely to ensure a better and fulfilled life. Thank you.
Oh, wait right here. I have to she was really nervous about this morning. She's been working on this for a long time, haven't you, Ashley?
Yes.
And can I show them your notes?
Yes.
I should have had her write speeches for me, because look at how well this is. I mean, next time I do a speech, we're going to have you. Did you want to introduce your support broker?
This is my support broker, Lacey.
Thank you, Ashley.
You're welcome.
She's just a joy. So, one thing that is so important, and I know I've said there's so many important things in a support broker, but a testimonial from Ashley is working together as a team. It's not her and her support broker. It's her support broker, her team, her case manager, her employees. She is the employer. She picks who she wants. She interviews who she wants. And she assists with and actually makes out her own schedule according to her terms, not the other way around as what was going on. So it's very important to come together as a team and become a circle of support around the individuals that are self-directed. And some of that organizationally can be brought through a support broker. They're helping with bringing that collaboration together, holding it together, holding people accountable for them, and helping to push things through and get things started for individuals. So working together as a team, it just can't get any better than that. So what kind of supports are available through a support broker? Well, it is time for the table. Remember we talked about the Jenga? In life, we go through all kinds of things in every day. It could be you woke up sick and your child's sick, or the dog was sick last night and you were up all night, or whatever it may be. There's ebbs and flows in everybody's day-to-day schedule. And what we're going to do with the Jenga today is, as we go through all of these different types of supports that a support broker could provide for you, somebody's going to come and take out a little block in that Jenga, and let's see how long that can withstand all of the little dents that you put into it, like we all do in an everyday life of things that happen. And it's not just us, it's the individuals that we work with. So to start with, before we even go to the first one, we're going to have someone volunteer from your table take a peek at knocking one of those out of the Jenga. She's going to be the daring one, and she's going to, then you know, that's the easiest one, usually the first and second one. All right, way to go. Do you? Oh, she's telling me how to do this. She's going to put it back on top. Okay. All right, let's move forward. So what we have is about 7 examples of what a support broker could do for someone. Some examples, we'll have some videos of some things, and at any point in time, if there's any questions, maybe you have a question on some point, something that you may have on your mind, we can also answer those questions as well. So,
And this won't be an all-inclusive list, obviously.
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing to point out. We're going to talk through some of the things that support brokers can do, but you notice in that state definition, it was very broad, and I feel it was intentionally left very, very broad because it's really about helping people to self-direct. And that can look very, very different from person to person. So we'll jump into our examples.
we will. So there are different things that a support broker can do. Medication support is one of them. Now, we're not nurses. We don't administer medication. But what we can do is assist with medication, durable medical equipment companies, getting them medication dispensers, helping them to find out where their closest durable medical equipment is. How do they actually get a hold of them? I mean, what's the process they have to go through if they need to find something to help them dispense their medication? So all of those things seems like a common sense thing to all of us, but it really is, when you break it down, can be a very difficult thing to do. So for example, I was on a visit one day with an individual, following up with them on a completely different topic, and he's sitting in his wheelchair, and he had been going through a lot of pain. So I was talking to him, and he's shaking a pill bottle. And finally I said, you know, what's going on? I mean, you need me to help you with that? You mean, what kind of medicine are you looking for? And he said, no, I'm just looking for the color and the shape of the pill. And I said, well, what for? And he goes, well, that's how I determine how to take my medication. And he's on a lot of medications, and he's on a lot of narcotic medications on top of it. And so I said, well, what medication are you looking for? So he told me, and it was his muscle relaxer. And I took the pill bottle, and I said, so this is the one that you've been taking for your muscle relaxers? And he said, yeah. And what had happened is he wasn't aware that he gets this 90 days implement of medication. He just got his new 90-day implementation of medication to change the color and the size of the pill. And he was taking his anxiety medication instead of his muscle relaxers. And, you know, those are things that we run into, not, I wouldn't say real common, but because we're close to the situation, of course that warranted an immediate call to the IRIS consultant, collaboration with them, talk to them about what's going on, talk to the individual about what's going on, and he just couldn't believe that they would switch his pills like that. So, you know, what transpired from there is actually meeting him at his neurologist appointment, which happened to be a couple of days away, met up with him at his neurology appointment, and he has memory loss. So when the neurologist asked him on that day with me sitting in the room with him, you know, how's your medication going? Oh, it's going just fine. And so how delicately can you put it to a physician that it's just not going well? So I asked the individual to show Dr. Rowland how you determine what medication to take, and he showed him. And right there, as you can imagine, a script went right out, and we went right down to the DME store. He picked out his own medication administration. He got home, I met him there, his mom showed up, and she started on a weekly basis administering his medication. So it's little things. And yes, did we write a goal for that? You betcha. It lasted 4 days, and we had a goal for that, because that is so critically important to address things right on the spot when things happen. Do you have one on medication support, Lisa?
I assisted an individual that she's got a lot of things going on health-wise, and it would her medications would change really frequently, and so it was becoming an issue where it was changing on a weekly basis, and she was receiving monthly meds. So she'd have additional meds around. There were meds that, she shouldn't be taking. There were too many meds, things like that. So I did help her with assisting to set up, so she got weekly deliveries rather than monthly deliveries, and they were pre-set up by the pharmacy on a weekly basis. She purchased the medical, the pill holder.
Mm-hmm.
And they set it up on a weekly basis now, and it's easier for the pharmacy because they're not having to try and fix things once it's already sent out. It's easier for her, so she's taking the right pills, and everybody is better off for it.
And what about that excess amount of pills that are left in the house? Where do those go? So you have to stop and wonder about some of those things if there's a frequent med change and you've got lots of medication laying around. Going back to this individual who I was talking about, he has an 8-year-old son in his home. So, and nothing was locked up. And so there was a lot of things that changed. So it was a really, really good thing. Let's move on to the next one. And John, because you're right in plain sight in front of me, why don't you take a stab at that Jenga puzzle over there? Oh, don't use a pen. That's cheating. You got to use your finger. You know why he's using that pen, don't you?
It's an assistive device. It's okay.
He's got some big fingers going on there. Oh, look at him. It has been a really... When was the last time somebody played Jenga? Has it been within 30 days? Nope. He got it. Way to go, John. All right. So, transportation. Transportation is something, especially in the rural areas, we hear a lot of requests from. How do I get transportation? Where do we go? Well, the obvious is for medical transportation, it's MTM. But sometimes there's some things with MTM that is hard for individuals who are looking to get medical transport. There's language barriers. I had to help someone set up MTM because there was a language barrier, and they could not interpret what the MTM person was saying. And so once that was established, I would meet them, we would call, we'd set up their date, and then we would look at the paperwork and go through that paperwork together to make sure that when they're ready to submit it, everything is correct so they can get, if they drive themselves, to that appointment. So transportation is huge, especially if there's a language barrier. But again, completion of the paperwork. Has anyone worked with MTM? Ashley, have you worked with MTM? How is it with
paratransit? Any of
paratransit? Yep.
Pretty much all of them.
Was it hard initially going through MTM trying to figure it out?
Learning the city bus took me about 6 months to learn
Okay.
the different routes and where I had to be, what time, because it's based off of their time schedule, not mine.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. So transportation is something that we also work with the individuals in terms of volunteers in the community, if we can find them. It can be churches, it can be anywhere. And again, that's where your knowledge resource comes in from your support broker. Medical support. All right. Do we have a volunteer in the back to come up and take a hand or take a stab at the Jenga? I can walk around and come on up. What? Oh, we do have someone that's. You're really good. We should have left you for the last one. Look at him. He's good. Oh, so you did not leave it good for the next person.
Nope.
All right. Lisa, you want to talk a little bit about medical support?
Sure. This one comes into play quite often if someone has a lot of things going on with their health. How many of you have been to a doctor and you've walked out and you're like, I don't even know what we just talked about? I think that happens fairly frequently.
All right, hang on. How many people have had that happen to them? Even sometimes I do. Yeah.
And I think there is a technique to being able to talk to doctors and make sure that you're on the same page, because they think differently than regular people. I'm not saying that doctors aren't regular people, but they do. They think differently. So sometimes making sure that everybody's on the same page can be a bit of a challenge. And especially if it's someone that already kind of has a difficult time understanding that technical stuff. So having a support broker that can meet you at the doctor and help facilitate that two-way communication. Make sure that everybody really is understanding each other. Maybe it's an issue where someone has some dementia or something where they're not able to self-report very well. There are cases where it's at a higher level than a caregiver would be able to take care of. I've worked with a lot of surgeons. I've worked with a lot of neurologists. Lisa, we'll hear about a little bit later, but she had multiple different medical things going on. So making sure that everything is coordinated between all of the doctors, everybody knows what's going on, so that we don't have issues with things, not working out together, can really be a big deal.
And not only just having a support broker go, but occasionally bring along that supportive home care worker or that personal care worker that is with them all the time, because they do have insights. They know what goes on in a day-to-day, but sometimes they just don't know how to relay that to a doctor. They don't, they're afraid.
Or they're not comfortable
They're
speaking
uncomfortable
up.
with physicians. I mean, they're doctors. I mean, I'm just somebody who comes in and helps them vacuum their rug. So there's a little bit of a separation there, and it can be difficult for those folks to actually relay to a physician or support staff what they need.
Sometimes it comes down to advocacy. We've got people that the doctors dismiss. They just say, well, that's just how it is, and you have to live with it. That's what you're gonna.
We got a
You have
question?
Well, it depends on the person, if they're their own guardian, if they're there with you, of course. But we do need to have the doctor's forms in place for release of information if we're going to be talking directly to medical professionals.
Absolutely. And that's another piece support brokers need to know. A release of HIPAA is huge. You have to have a release of information for everything. It should be kept in a file. It should be kept notable. And it doesn't just happen on initial intake of working with someone. It happens continuously throughout the time that you spend with them, because you get to start to interacting with different people depending on where they want you to go, who they want you to meet, what interactions they would like you to have with other individuals. So release of information is very, very critical.
I think the next section is going to be Lisa telling a little story, but just to give a little bit more information, a little more in depth with that, she had some significant hip pain to the point where she was needing to use a walker, wasn't able to get around. It was severely impacting her quality of life. We went and talked with the orthopedist, and he said, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. It's not I can't help you. And we went to him again and we said, are you sure? Can we try something? And finally we ended up going to another orthopedist to see if he would maybe give a second opinion and say, yeah, we can do something about this. He also said no, but hey, I'll refer you over to Rochester. We ended up going to Rochester to find a surgeon. She had surgery this spring, or this summer, and she is planning on learning dancing. She is walking. She had a foot drop. You'll hear her mention it in the clip. She had a foot drop that she had had for 30 years that's gone. Her foot, she can straighten it perfectly. It's a miracle. It's absolutely wonderful. So I'll play her story.
Are there some specific things that your support broker helped you with?
Yes, getting my medical in place. I have a lot going on there. I had partial paralysis, or have partial paralysis with a left foot drop. I had a torn labrum that was almost halfway torn around. I had my brain injury. I have problems with my neck, many problems with my neck, which go down to my arms. And I also need surgery on that. I have more things than I'd like to share going on with my body. And Lisa's helping me go one by one through these medical issues and helping me get them fixed. While I was on the East Coast, I had taken a fall down some stairs and hurt my hip. That was already bothering me, but as time went on, it was getting worse. The doctors weren't feeling that I was credible about my pain. I believe I can withstand a lot of pain because of the things that I've been through. And I don't think that they realized exactly what I was going through. Eventually, I met up with Kathy Hill, who got me on this program for Iris. And Kathy hooked me up with Lisa Lontz. And Lisa has definitely made the difference in my life. I don't think I'd still be here if it wasn't for her. When I couldn't think for myself, she helped me. She helped me with the doctors, and getting my medical figured out, and taking one thing at a time. She's helped me when things have become overwhelming, and she actually has given me support that I haven't got from anybody in many, many years. Having a support broker, I'd like to think of her as my friend, has really, really changed my life. It's allowed me to move forward, to heal, and to make good choices instead of bad choices.
Wow, the one thing that's just burning a hole in my mind as she's talking, my physicians didn't think my pain was credible. How many times have you been in a room where you have heard people not being heard? And this is a physician. This is someone that they go to, that they're looking for help. And they tell them basically that their pain is incredible. How would they know that? Really? So to have an advocate for them, to go in and to assist them with getting direction, pushing forward and getting the answers that they need, and the treatment that they well deserve. Advocacy is unlimited. It doesn't have to be with just medical situations. It is truly unlimited.
With that situation, the first doctor we went to, like I mentioned, he didn't want to do any kind of surgery. What he told her was, you have so many things going on, I just don't think it'll really help. What we talked about is taking those things and breaking them down one by one. What's on the worst? What's bothering you the worst? The hip pain. Okay, let's fix this and improve your quality of life, and then we can take the next thing and we'll see if we can fix that too. There's no magic wand with medical things, but if you don't try, you're not going to get better. And if people aren't willing to help you and aren't listening to you, you need to keep advocating for yourself until someone does listen. And sometimes having that support broker can help with that process.
Hence the goal setting, correct, Lisa? Yeah, exactly. Individual as an employer. All right, we're one more step. We need another volunteer. Should I go seek someone, or is someone going to volunteer to come up and try and navigate what you left behind the last time? Come on. Somebody can do it. Everybody looks down. Don't pick me. Don't pick me. All right. Carrie, would you like to try your hand at it? You've never played it? Do you need some instruction? You have to try to poke through.
Thank you.
Poke through a piece of wood and not have it fall down.
Yeah, careful on the table. Yeah, don't get on the table.
We're having you refocus your thoughts for a little bit here. Sometimes if you tap them, you can find out which ones are the loose ones. Oh, look at her. All right, I have to ask, young man, what is your name? Justin.
Good job.
Justin, she conquered what you left behind.
She did really well. I thought I made a mess, but I guess I didn't make too big of a mess.
You set her up and it failed. There you go. Yeah. So let's talk about an individual as an employer. When individuals hire on employees, all of a sudden they become an employer. What is that? And so as a support broker, there's a lot of education and training that we can do with them. What does it mean to be an employer? What is the expectation from your employees? What are your expectations to your employees? Do you have job descriptions? Do you have interview questions? Do you have insights on how to fill out time cards? Make sure that all the time cards get sent in. And of course, the big hoverer of all is, am I within my budget? Because that's huge too. So all of these things, and an employer is a lot of work for them.
It's a very complicated thing.
It is
to
very,
employ-
very
Be
complicated.
an employer.
It is. So we have an individual, John, who we haven't seen yet. John is autistic. He comes from the La Crosse area. And I think you're going to find him very helpful in understanding what he goes through.
Yeah, I don't think that we would have been able to do self-directed supports without a support broker. You know, we really wanted to pursue that for a long time, but it's a lot to take on when you don't have extended family to rely on.
I think it is so much better. Now,
We had help with recruiting and interviewing and placing an ad, all of those things, which could have been very overwhelming. And Daniel then could be involved in who got to work with him. So that was really great because we've had a lot of experience with people that were not a good fit, and now we were able to have more control over the outcome, which was good for Daniel.
Yes. I get to say what happens.
I think before, agencies that hired people, they hire them for their agency, not for the individual. And in fact, they shun input from their clients and the guardians for the most part during the initial application and finding people to work with Daniel. So this was really great to have the help of Lacey.
Am very happy with my staff.
So all different walks of life they come from, all different types of disabilities, and everyone has their own little unique challenges and their own thoughts and how they want things to work and where they want things to go once they've hired new employees. So hiring is a very big topic right now, trying to find the right person to work for the individuals out in the community or in their home. So this has been, and especially if you find them in rural areas, it's, you know, sometimes we end up going to churches, sometimes it's just finding volunteers. It really has become an art to try and find workers that work the best with these individuals, you know, that want to hire people for them. So now we're going to talk a little bit more about advocacy, and because I know there's not going to be any volunteers and I had to pick one the last time, Matt, I'm going to have to pick on you. Let's see what you can do with this. No, don't be nervous that everybody's watching you. There you go. Good job. Excellent job. So we've gone through a couple of different scenarios. We've talked about advocacy. It is wide open. The door is wide open. It can be medication. It can be working with physicians. It can be supporting them. Advocacy for them can be terminating employees for them. I mean, that's part of being an employer. Sometimes they don't work out and they don't want to have to do it, so they'll turn to us and say, Lisa, I don't like Susie. Can you just tell her that I don't want her to come back anymore? That is part of a support broker's job. So advocacy, you know, listening and seeing and hearing things is so very important. And Lisa has a wonderful story about an individual that she worked with in regards to advocacy.
Yeah, my story is about Sue and Sophie. Sue is a lady that I work with. She lives alone in a very small town, extremely rural, really challenging to find any kind of staff there. We'd gone through a couple staff already, and it would take months to finally get somebody that was good in. So Sue has some medical things going on. She's got some significant mental illness, some depression, some things with her physical health as well. And it's made it a little challenging for her to find workers that'll stay on long term. Usually they'll be there for a few months and then things will start to kind of fall apart. So during a mediation, trying to salvage a relationship between Sue and her current caregiver, we sat down and what we discovered was that Sue had some unfair expectations of her workers. She was calling people out of the blue on a Sunday morning and saying, "I'm lonely, come over now." And if they didn't come over, then she wanted to fire them. And she didn't want to work with that person anymore. So obviously that was a conversation on its own, talking about what we can expect from employees and what's fair. But the other piece that we took from that, and this is where I was talking about pulling those little pieces apart and taking a look at what the bigger issue might be there. She was lonely. What was happening was Sue was really lonely. And she had voiced that before, but how do you know, it's again a small town. She really didn't get out a whole lot, didn't have a whole lot of options right there in her community. So the three of us sat down and we said, what about a pet? Have you ever considered getting a pet? And Sue said, I don't think I can. The carpets are new in here. I don't think my landlord will let me have one. It's expensive. I'd have to put down a deposit. You have to pay a pet fee on a monthly basis. I can't do that. I said, well, Sue, just give me a little bit of time. Let me look into this a little bit more. And so I went back and I did some research on emotional support animals, because I really felt that this would be something that would be helpful for Sue. After talking with her psychiatrist, who's worked with Sue for decades, she said, absolutely, I think that would be a great thing. I will certainly sign off on her getting an emotional support animal. So we had a doctor that would sign off on it. Then next step was to talk with the landlord, make sure that they are okay with everything. Emotional support animals, they have to accept them, but we want to make sure that we're on the up and up. We want good relationships with everybody. Sue's been living there a long time. We want her to be able to live there a long time into the future, so we want everything to be happy and smooth sailing. So talked with the landlord, and their policies there were that all the pets need to be neutered or spayed, declawed, and they have to be up to date on current vaccinations. That's pretty fair. So we said, okay, we can look into that. And she said, and if it's an emotional support cat and it fits all those qualifications, the monthly fee will be waived and you won't have to pay that deposit. Well, even better, because Sue's on a pretty tight fixed income. So the next step was finding a cat. And with some research, again, using some social media and just doing a little exploring out there, I found a cat that met all the requirements and was desperately in need of a loving home. So enter Sophie. Sophie's owners were looking for the perfect home for their girl. They'd had her since she was just a tiny, tiny kitten. And it was obvious there was a lot of love there. But it wasn't a good fit anymore in their family. They were going to be downsizing. They were having another baby. They had a dog that didn't get along with Sophie. They had tried for a couple years to try and work out that situation and just wasn't happening. Sophie's kind of an individual animal, needs one person. And so they felt it wasn't fair for her to stay. She needed to go somewhere else where she could have a better quality of life. So I started asking questions because I wanted to make sure it was a good fit for Sue. And as I learned more about Sophie, I mentioned that she'd be an emotional support animal. And, you know, obviously those people that love Sophie were so happy and overjoyed to hear that Sophie would be going somewhere where she would be giving back, and that would be a mutual relationship. So pictures were exchanged, and Sue said, yeah, make it happen. So I had all the paperwork lined up, and pretty soon, I think actually Sophie ended up in my bathroom for 2 weeks, but pretty soon she was on her way. Shh, don't tell my boss. In no time, Sue and Sophie became fast friends. The best part was the unexpected changes, though, that we've seen with Sue since getting Sophie. I can't even begin to express the differences that I see in her. Sue's a wonderful, I absolutely adore Sue. She's a wonderful lady, and I really, really enjoy her. But in these last 4 months since she's had Sophie, she smiles more. She's just more outgoing. She actually listened to her nurse, who's been trying to get her to do some things like use a shower chair or sit down on a chair when she's getting dressed so she doesn't fall over, things like that. She's being compliant. She's actually doing things like that now. She's exercising. She's been going on walks around her neighborhood. Her balance is improved. She isn't needing nearly as much support from anyone, including myself, which makes me a little bit sad. But she was calling me several times a week, and now it'll be a couple weeks, and she'll check in and just say, hey, how you doing? And it's just everything's going fine, everything's great kind of check-in. So she even stopped receiving paid personal cares because she's now willing to have some natural supports to do that. She's just more comfortable and things are better in her life. So all of that within the last 4 months. And the biggest thing is now just trying to convince her that Sophie doesn't need to eat cat treats all day long. She needs a bucket of cat treats. So I've got a little voicemail here that I thought I'd play for you.
Hi, Ma. Just calling to see how you were doing. Sophie and I are still falling in love. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Is that not an awesome story? And, you know, it's a great chance to talk about. Lisa had a great relationship with her as her support broker, but a support broker is not a long-term fixture on anyone's case. It should never be that way. Sometimes we spend more time with more individuals than others, depending on how complex the case should be or is. But you set goals to achieve goals with these individuals, and then that gives them one step further to go into their own life. Support brokers are not and should never be a permanent fixture on anyone's caseload.
I think it's an ebb and flow for a lot of people.
It is. It certainly is.
People have times in their life where things come up and it gets challenging, and that's where a support broker can maybe step in and assist with that, find community resources that can help, and just make things a little more smooth for them and get through that rough patch. And then we can step back into the background again for a while. And just having that relationship and being able to step forward again the next time that kind of thing happens, and they already have that trust and that relationship, and they know that we're going to work together, makes all the difference.
All right, so we're going on to community connections and natural supports. Yes, somebody else has to remove a Jenga part, but guess what? Oh, I have a volunteer. That's good, because I was going to call on somebody who probably wouldn't have been expecting it.
You didn't say that before last.
Yeah, okay. See, now everybody's going to go out and buy Jenga. Right now, Jenga's on sale at Shopko for $9.99. Yes, that's right. That's right. Oh.
Maybe I shouldn't have.
You can do it. Uh-oh. Woo! Good job. So, community connections. Boy, that's kind of really, it's kind of starting to get a lean to it, isn't it? Whew. Thank you very much. See, you earned your keep for today. Let's talk about community connections and natural supports. We are looking for these as care managers, IRIS consultants, natural supports, guardians, parents, friends, church colleagues. You're always looking for community connections and natural supports. And a support broker can also help you with those things. So as you can see, we're playing out so many different scenarios, and I know it's hard to keep track of all of them, but we're going to show you a chart a little bit later on that kind of breaks down what you should and shouldn't do or look for in a support broker. But as a community connection, introduce them to volunteer activities, get them out into the community, find them a pet that works for them. I mean, the sky is the limit to all the different things that are available for them. And their team is the one that can also, when you look at who can make a referral for a support broker, it can be anybody. It could be your parents, it could be their guardian, it could be the neighbor down the street, it could be their psychologist. It could be anyone. A referral is a referral. It doesn't matter where it comes from. And that just needs to be placed to the individual's care manager or IRIS consultant. And that's how the ball gets rolling for things like that. So community connections and natural supports, again, the eyes and ears are to the ground. And sometimes these play out into the advocacy part, just listening. You hear the things, oh, I'm so lonely. Well, let's address that and let's get this person out and moving. Personal budgeting and finance. Okay, this is another one. Who wants to volunteer? Wow, you're brave. You want me to move a chair for you so you can get in there?
Nah, I got it.
You Oh. That's going to be tougher than you thought, isn't it? And don't be nervous because everybody's watching you. And oh, look, she found one. Nice work! Woo! Good job! Excellent! Oh. We spoke too soon, didn't we? Thank you so much, Leah. All right, so this comes full circle. This is why we're playing Jenga. How many times have you as an individual or care manager, IRIS consultant, been out working with someone and you thought, hey, you had all the pieces together and everything was going good, and the bridge broke one day? Something broke through. Something didn't happen. That's one of the things that is not planned for. And I know, I'm looking at your faces and I'm seeing a lot of you shake your head, yes, it happens, it's life. It's not just self-directed program, it's life, it's everyday life. And that represents things that we do on a daily basis and a support broker does on a daily basis that encompasses those 3 or 4 week fixes with someone. Is something happens and it needs assistance right away, and we pull it all together. So we didn't knock the whole thing down, did we, Leah? We could probably still keep going a little bit more, couldn't we? Yeah. And that's what happens. Sometimes you don't have to rebuild the whole Jenga puzzle or the whole life pieces in one day. It takes a while to build them back up. So when we talk about personal financing and budgeting, it is the things that we do every day and a support broker can help with. Sometimes they may ask you, I don't have enough money for heat. Can you help me find some way to pay for my heat? What about heating assistance? Get them connected with someone. We talk about different things like they don't know how to manage their money well, and at the end of the month there's no money left. So bring some resources to the table and let's talk about a representative payee, where they can have their money given to them for the things and get things paid for so that they stay in their apartment, they have food on the table to eat, all of those very, very important things for them. And then the community resources, churches that will assist or help them assist with moves. I mean, that is definitely something, there's something to be said about finances and personal budgeting that you can always help them with.
I've had 2 people that have moved in the past year, and I don't know if you've ever had to move yourself, but nobody likes moving, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, moving is awful. It's horrible. And finding those people to actually do that physical move, you're usually kind of begging your friends and maybe bribing them with things, whatever it might be, to get those people in there. Well, a lot of the individuals we support don't have a lot of natural supports or don't have a lot of people that they can bribe. So finding those resources, I actually found a church that will come out and do the move for you. And they helped with both of those individuals for free. And I don't know it was a godsend right there. So it was absolutely wonderful, really wonderful people to work with. And, those things are in the community. It just takes that research and that checking into things and asking and finding those resources.
Asking those questions. Wanted to highlight down here what a support broker cannot do or should never do. They should never set up a bank account for someone. They should never sign checks. They should never sign to be an authorized agent. They're not responsible for payment of bills. These are the responsibilities of the individuals. So if you look at a support broker in the context of what can and can't they do, it's more about looking at them as a community resource, and it kind of helps put a picture together on what you can use a support broker for. For employment opportunities, I think this is number 8, isn't it? Is this the last one, Lisa? It might be. So, do I have a volunteer for the Jenga to see if we can finish this off? If not, I have one in mind. And he's sitting back there behind all that technical equipment. His name is Dustin. Hi there, buddy. Why don't you come on up and try this Jenga game with us? Okay, I thought you might want to
Interactive.
Get a little interaction going on there. Really? So
First
see,
time
you're
for
learning
everybody.
something new every day. So do you need some direction on how to play the game? Okay, you go ahead. The best part of this whole game is everyone in this room now, if you've never played it, you see, there he got it. You see that you don't have to read the directions to figure this out, right, Dustin? You don't have to do it. So employment opportunities, this is where a support broker can help learn to link services and resources together. We do not, as support brokers, provide traditional job coaching. That's somebody else's field of expertise. However, we can help to educate people on computers. Once the job coach has left an individual and they're doing very well in their job, that is fantastic. Until the day they receive a note in the mail or their manager or their supervisor tells them, by the way, you need to get on the computer and sign off on the benefits package for work, and we need to know if you want to be eligible for retirement, and this is your PIN number, and this is how you get on the computer. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah, it's true. It's hard to decipher, isn't it? Yeah, it is, and those are the things, the everyday things in the world that is helpful for helping them with employment opportunities. All right, here's the list that I was talking about. What support brokers should and shouldn't do. I like to go through the things we should do because I think it'll give you the mindset for the community resource specialist that you're looking for. Collaborative problem solving, community resource connection, advocacy, facilitating and assisting in self-directing, medication supports, transportation, healthcare, system supports, communicating, and connecting. Community connecting, I should say. All of those are wonderful things that they should do. And if you look on the left side, you'll see that those are things that someone does for someone, and that's not what a support broker does. We don't do personal cares. We find people to do personal cares for them. Let's talk a little bit about independence. Is this a long one, Lisa? Okay.
I was told on several occasions that I needed to being in a nursing home. I used to supervise 2 nursing homes or a group home. And my last job was supervising group homes for TBIs, which is kind of ironic. And I have fought to stay independent. I was told that I was not able to make decisions on my own and I needed nursing home care. I have huge problems with organization, with paperwork, with just feeling when there's a lot going on emotionally. I panic and I feel crumbled. And then I don't know what to do. And I really do feel kind of like a three-year-old that's scared and out in the woods. And what happens is that when I'm able to text or talk or see my support broker, even within an hour or a half hour or a phone call, I might not turn 60 again, but I'm at least out of high school. Options seem, I'm able to prioritize and to realize that 20 things don't have to be done at once, that things don't have to be done perfectly, that I'm not going to lose my place in the universe because I can't open the pineapple can and that I'm not unlovable.
So, did having a support broker improve the quality of your life? That's the question that individuals who hire support brokers should ask themselves. And it is my hope that with the right support broker, you'll be able to say yes. And I see Ashley smiling over there, so I know that that definitely is something that has worked out well for her.
Did you want to play that or skip it?
We're running short on time. See, I thought we would be done in an hour, and I think we're pushing time, and we apologize for that. How does one find a support broker? Well, it really it's not difficult to find a support broker. It's just doing a little research. And you can do that by, going to your ADRC and speaking to someone there. They may have some ideas. Family Care and the Iris Consultants, they can help you with that as well. And the other things you can do is look at social service agencies. I have a lot of different links in here or places that you can go online. If you go online and you Google support broker and say in the state of Wisconsin, it's going to jump up and tell you where support brokers are at. There's not a whole lot of them, but it kind of gives you a jump start on where you can go.
And we're growing.
What's that?
And we're growing.
And we are growing, yeah. External resources include other people around you. You can ask anybody in your church, anywhere that you can find. Those things are valuable tools. Oh, want to go back one? What's that? Which one do you want?
Would you recommend support broker services to other people?
Oh, hell no. Can't you hear how it's been a disaster. Can you hear how I've suffered? Yes. Yes, I would. Yes, I would.
We just had to get that last one in.
Gotta love that. Yeah.
Okay. I have one last thing, and it'll just give you something to read about, just a quick synopsis. It's not only individuals and Iris consultants and individuals, care managers, there's also guardians, and this is a guardian's insight on getting a support broker. And her health is getting older, and she lives 60 miles from the individual from her sister, and her sister has 24/7 supports, and she's in HUD housing. And she has been in and out of institutional care for years and years and years. And now she has stabilized and is able to live on her own with 24-hour support from her team members and her employees. And she has a wonderful circle of support, or family, friends, and natural support that help her with what is going on with her life. And she's very happy with the support broker simply because a weight has been lifted off her shoulders. She can actually be a sister to her sister, whereas before, as guardian, she had to make all the, well, she didn't make all the decisions. She talked with her about them, but still, she got to be a sister instead of being inundated with paperwork, with time cards, with hiring new people should they, and they're in a rural area, which makes it even more complicated. So she wrote this up, and one of the last things that all of us want to share with you in the support broker world out there is don't ever lose hope, because when the sun goes down, there's one thing for sure. A, the stars are going to come out, and B, the sun is going to rise the next morning. So never give up hope. If you need assistance with something, go out there and research it. Ask people. Support brokers can be that person that can help you achieve some of those things that you're looking for.
So many times there's people that absolutely can self-direct. There's no doubt that they should be able to self-direct, but they've got one little piece, one little area that they struggle with, and that piece holds them back. So don't let one little piece hold someone back from living a life of their choosing. There's support for that.
There is. Any questions that anyone may have? Yes? We sure do. Yeah, a support broker can do either one of those, you bet. And a support broker can be private pay. That's a very good question. It doesn't have to be through IRIS or, yeah.
Your experiences, you talked about how support is maybe, ebbs and flows, things get better. How does that work in regards to the participant or the individual receiving the services, pay for support?
The nice thing is that with the plan, it can flow from month to month. It doesn't have to be this much is used during this week in this time period. You can have 1 month where you maybe have 2 hours of support, and the next month you use 14 hours of support. And if your plan evens out to where you should have 8 hours of support, you're good. 8 hours of support a month, because it evens out. It balances in the end.
Yes. Well, the standard rate, it varies on the individuals, and for private pay through our organization, it is $45 an hour. And the reason that rate is so high is because you have someone that is a community expert. It's a community resource. They've got the knowledge, they've got the experience, and again, it is not meant to be a long-term support. I mean, we are very, very transparent about making sure that the individual gets the support they need, that all the questions are answered, that we do the very best we can in the short amount of time to give the biggest bang for the buck. I guess you can look at it that way. But private pay is $45 an hour. And that could vary between different support brokers.
Is that different for agencies then? Yeah, I don't know that we can really speak to rates, honestly.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to do that. Sorry. Any other questions? Well, on behalf of Lutheran Social Services, Lisa, myself, Ashley, we'd like to thank you very much for coming today. I know there's a nice warm lunch waiting for you. You guys take care, and if you find us and you need to talk to us, by all means, let us know. You guys are a great audience. Thanks.